Part 4. What is to be done? So far, we have covered how capitalism is developing, and how this drives us towards a socialist society. We have seen that socialist societies are based around public centralized ownership and economic planning. It would be a mistake, however, to use these arguments as a basis for abolishing markets and instituting universal planning in one stroke. The misconception that Marxism is inherently opposed to utilizing private property in markets is incredibly pervasive and incredibly dangerous, and leads to false conclusions that can economically devastate a country. Recall that large-scale industry is the basis for socialism. Recall that this large-scale industry is a product of the development of market competition. Therefore, abolishing markets in sectors of the economy which still are highly competitive is nonsensical, and would lead to enormous economic inefficiencies. Quote, "Free competition is necessary for the establishment of big industry, because it is the only condition of society in which big industry can make its way." End quote. Friedrich Engels. The Principles of Communism. Competitive markets are absolutely necessary for the development of big industry. The government should not attempt to nationalize industries which still are dominated by small producers, and still are highly competitive. This would lead to inefficiencies, as this would inherently mean the infrastructure for such large-scale planning is currently not in place, and the economic benefits of competitive markets would have to be abolished by the state by force. Quote, "Capitalism is a bane compared with socialism. Capitalism is a boon compared with medievalism, small production, and the evils of bureaucracy which spring from the dispersal of the small producers. Inasmuch as we are as yet unable to pass directly from small production to socialism, since capitalism is inevitable as the elemental product of small production and exchange, so that we must utilize capitalism, particularly by directing it into the channels of state capitalism, as the intermediary link between small production and socialism, as a means, a path, and a method of increasing the productive forces." End quote. Vladimir Lenin. The tax in kind. Therefore, the goal of the Marxist Party when coming to power should not be to immediately abolish all private property. This is an incorrect viewpoint. The goal of the Marxist Party should only be to extend public ownership in the economy in the already monopolized sectors of the economy, and then to encourage rapid economic development, to speed up the process of centralization, which will eventually allow for an expansion of public ownership. Quote, "The proletariat will use its political supremacy to wrest, by degree, all capital from the bourgeoisie, to centralize all instruments of production in the hands of the state, i.e., of the proletariat organized as the ruling class, and to increase the total productive forces as rapidly as possible." End quote. Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels. Manifesto of the Communist Party. The inherent implication of this is that a Marxist party should not abolish private property in one stroke. This is a common misconception. A Marxist party should instead utilize markets in an efficient way, in order to develop the economy as rapidly as possible. Complete abolition would require incredibly high levels of economic development which humanity has yet to realize. Quote, "Will it be possible for private property to be abolished at one stroke? No, no more than existing forces of production can at one stroke be multiplied to the extent necessary for the creation of a communal society. In all probability, the proletarian revolution will transform existing society gradually, and will be able to abolish private property only when the means of production are available in sufficient quantity." End quote. Friedrich Engels. The Principles of Communism. The call for the immediate abolition of private property is an incorrect viewpoint and highly dangerous. This dogmatic viewpoint contributed to an economic downturn within China during the late 1950s. Quote, "What merits our attention here is that our socialist state was established by a proletarian party that has a grasp of historical materialism, and is dedicated to communism. With such a party controlling the state power, it is possible for our country to promote changes in the relations of production according to its own will. If, instead of proceeding from realities, we try to change the relations of production according to our wishful thinking, the result may be that the relations of production will go beyond the requirements of the growth of the productive forces, which may thus be disrupted. In 1958, for instance, people's communes, large in size, and having a high degree of public ownership as Mao Zedong put it, were set up throughout the country, and there rose the premature communist wind characterized by the attempt to effect a transition to communism. All this made agricultural production drop greatly." End quote. Xue Muqiao. China's Socialist Economy.